The writing this guy does. The minimum is 2,000 words, I believe, for him. Video content, his YouTube channel, Rob Staton Football. Follow him on Twitter at Rob Staton. Do you have a minimum amount of words that you like to write when you start writing?
No, and I am worried sometimes that the articles are too long. But I think it's a lost art. Like this is just something like locally. So I don't know what it's like in America, but in locally we have journalists, and I'm friends with these guys, so I hope they don't mind me saying this. But they will often use the term "long read" to describe something that's about 900 words long. And I think, I've chucked out a 5,000 word article today on my blog, so it's there. If you want it, if you want long reads, then the blog does that. It's not going to be everybody's cup of tea, but I like writing. That's my thing. I enjoy writing and talking about football. There's not that many people to do it with in Rotherham, so I enjoy doing it.
It's we call it over here long form.
Oh, okay.
It's long form. That's like The Athletic. That's how the Athletic sold everybody when they started. It was we're bringing back the long form articles. What I do enjoy, I don't know if they do this over there, but they do it over here, where now when you click on an article, because we're so stupid now, and our attention, our attention to pay attention to anything.
I know what you're going to say.
Yeah, is so minimal. We can't pay attention anymore. It tells you when you click on the article, this is a 2-minute read.
Yeah.
Okay, how about I just read the damn thing, and I'll figure out how long it takes me. I don't need, it's a 5-minute read. I'm out. Can't do 5 minutes today.
That's almost a review of where our culture in the West has gone, isn't it? That you need to be told that, don't worry, this is not too long.
Exactly. It's not because if somebody clicks on it, you're right, Rob, though this is a 25-minute read. I don't have 25 minutes. I just, no, because we're just used to, we're used to just scrolling. Like button, scroll. Oh, there's a woman bouncing up and down. Okay, I'll watch that.
I just hope that
what's happening to us.
Exactly. And do you know what I did? That is one of the reasons why I still love doing the blog, because it's ad free.
Yeah.
There's usually when you click on something to read these days, it is cluttered with commercials and stuff like that. You are constantly having to click to the next page for the extra click and stuff like that. And the one thing about Seahawks Draft Blog is that there's none of that. And, it doesn't make me any money. It's all free. So, go on there and check it out. And that's the thing. I just want people to read it. It takes a lot of effort. So if you are prepared to give it a go and read a 5,000 word article on draft quarterbacks today, head over to SeahawksDraftBlog.com.
I'm telling you guys, he's got this I said 2,000. You're right. 5,000 on the quarterbacks, defensive line, and offensive line. You've kind of done the same, and we're going to get into that today. Kind of a same 3-part series on all of those 3 positions, and it's a look at not only just the draft, but it's also look at free agency there as well. So go check it out. We're gonna get into it. I don't know which one do you want to start with? I'll ask you. You wrote them. Do you want to start with the offensive line, defensive line, or the quarterback one?
Yeah, I want to start the quarterback one just because it shifted my thoughts in a different direction. And I've not been the biggest Jackson Dart fan. And after writing this article, I just came away thinking, I've probably been underestimating this guy. Like, I've been trying to work out why the media, and when I say the media, I mean the people who are in the know. Like, Todd McShay is very connected. He knows a lot of people. He's very close to some big names in the NFL. And when he suddenly starts saying, after a pretty unspectacular Senior Bowl from Jackson Dart, that he could be the second quarterback taken, then you kind of listen to all of the different people, and we all know who they are, who have sources in the NFL, and they're all kind of saying the same thing. You wonder, where is this coming from? Is it an active agent? Is it just that we've all, I don't know, maybe we're just not seeing what the league is seeing, whatever it is. And then I wrote this article, and so here's the things that Jackson Dart comes out on top on in this class. Big time throws against turnover worthy plays, big time throws off play action, where he is miles ahead of everyone else in this draft and the last draft class as well, which was a good draft class for quarterbacks. He doesn't create pressure against himself. He doesn't create his own sacks. His QBR, which over the last few years has correlated with being a high draft pick, is the same range as Michael Penix Jr. There's good data on his running ability. For example, he had 28 runs of more than 10 yards. That's only 2 fewer than Jalen Milroe, and everybody thinks he's just basically a running quarterback. Mm-hmm. So he just comes across well in every one of these data points. And it's making me think, actually, maybe I've underrated him. Maybe I've underestimated him. Maybe there's something to this chatter. Maybe he's going to go a lot earlier than I thought.
But you're not the only one that's in this camp. I mean, you look at all these mock drafts, and when people discuss the quarterbacks, he's not being mentioned as one of the first guys off the board. I mean, it's always Cam, it's Cam Ward, it's Shedeur Sanders, but Jackson Dart. I mean, he's gaining more attention, Rob. But why though? Because you look at him and you go, well, he kind of looks like the guy getting off the bus, right? When he gets off the bus as a quarterback, you're like, oh, yeah, that's the quarterback. And then the name, it's perfect. It's a perfect quarterback name, by the way. But what is it about maybe the actual play? Right, come on, Jackson Dart. Can there be a better name? Find me a better name than that for playing quarterback.
Yeah.
But what is it about his play? Is it the scheme? What was it that Kiffin ran? I mean, why did it take people so long to warm up to him, you think?
I don't know. I mean, when I watched him, there were a couple of games, and maybe again, look, you do this when you watch players, you kind of form your opinions early on, and this is why you have to go back and reflect. But you
can't get off those opinions initially, right?
You do, but you don't want to overcorrect, and that's something I'm going to have to be very careful not to do off the back of writing this 5,000 word article. Is not overcorrect too much. But there was the Kentucky game, for example, where he didn't get the job done. That he dropped his eyes too quickly. Was trying to take off and run, thinking he's Lamar Jackson. He was not converting first downs, and it was a problem. Then there's the Florida game late on where he had a chance to 2 game-winning drives, opportunities, didn't score on either of them through interceptions on both drives. He had a third overturned, and that cost them a chance to the playoffs. And you think of things like that, and you form bad opinions of Jackson Dart. But then, as I'm writing this article, I'm thinking, okay, but what did Jaden Daniels do last year? He lost 3 games, with LSU. They didn't make the playoffs. He lost to Jackson Dart and Ole Miss last season. So, Bo Nix couldn't beat Washington. They couldn't get over the line against the Huskies. So some of these quarterbacks who then went into the NFL didn't end their college careers in the most perfect way, like Jackson Dart. And then there was the other thing that I found really interesting is I'm not a big analytics guy. Like I'm not completely against analytics.
This is why this whole series was a big step for you, sir. And congratulations for recognizing your weakness.
Yeah, I'm not a big analytics guy. I prefer to sort of watch football and form opinions that way. But I'm not a Luddite. I don't not pay attention to this kind of stuff. But the QBR thing, and it's like a formula. There's a very long article, probably one of mine on ESPN explaining what it is. But it is something that teams have taken interest in. And I had a look, Puck, that if you are a quarterback in college football who has been drafted in the last, I think, 4 drafts, if you've scored an 80 or higher on QBR, I wrote them all down. 12 first-round picks, 3 day 2 picks, and an early 4th-round pick. So if you're scoring an 80 or higher, you are going to be a high draft pick. That's what the data says over the last 4 drafts. You are going to be a high draft pick. And then I look at the 2025 quarterback class, and you have got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 quarterbacks who have a plus 80 for QBR. I think we're going to see quarterbacks go a bit earlier than people think. I think we are going to have a middle class. I think by the end of the 4th round, we're going to have seen a decent chunk of quarterbacks taken in this draft.
Who are those 6, you think?
So the 6 that got a plus 80, Cam Ward led the way. So that's probably another validating data point for him being the first quarterback taken. Dylan Gabriel scored very highly. He's short. He struggles to throw to his right side because he's left-handed. I don't think he's going to go that early, but maybe he goes in the 4th round. Curtis Rourke, I think he would have gone in the 4th round, but for the ACL injury. So he might last a bit. Then it's Jackson Dart. Then it's Will Howard. Then it's Jalen Milroe. So they're the players. And then just on the outside of that 80 cutoff, you have Shedeur Sanders, Quinn Ewers, Riley Leonard, Kyle McCord. So you actually have the quarterbacks in this draft. They score very highly in this spot. And that's why I think, I'm not saying they're going to go in the 1st round. I think there's a decent chance based on this study that we're going to see Ward go first. Then it'll be a battle between Sanders and Dart for 2nd. And then we may have to wait till round 2 or round 3. But I think there will be a run at some point on day 2 where the quarterbacks come off the board.
So did you come away after doing all of this? Did you come away feeling, sounds like you came away feeling better about this class?
I came away thinking this is not a blue chip quarterback class. You do not have top stars. You do not have the Jaden Daniels types, the Drake Mays, people like that. But you have a deeper class than I thought. There is a decent middle class here. And I think there are players in this class who have the opportunity, and this is not recency bias because of what happened a week last Sunday, have got a chance if they get in the right place, with the right supporting cast, with the right coach, they could have a Jalen Hurts type career.
Which is solid. more than solid, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it feels like you can find someone later that this would be the year of the draft where the Seahawks do select someone.
I think they're going to take one. I think they're going to draft a quarterback in this draft.
When you wrote this article, did it find you, at least reading it, that maybe you're like, I still like Quinn Ewers, but maybe now with this research, maybe I'm not as warm on him anymore?
There's a lot of difficult data for Quinn Ewers. It's not a great read. If you are, and there are people out there who have, they do like Quinn Ewers,
sure.
And when they read this, they're going to think, "Oh my word!" Like there is some bad data. I think the one, and I would encourage people to read it because we probably would spend the rest of the show talking about Quinn Ewers' bad data if we were going to go through everything. But there is one slight thing, and the injuries are both an excuse for Quinn Ewers and also a reason for real concern. So on the one hand, I think that the injury issue is something that, can he stay healthy? I don't know if he can. I'm not confident about that.
Hey, remind me of the injuries again.
He had an abdomen injury and then he had an ankle injury.
Where's your abdomen?
It's kind of sort of here, midriff sort of area.
I'm just going to write that down.
He had a very, yeah. It was. Here's the thing, Puck, and people have made a good point here. This is not as if he gets hammered in the pocket and has had bad injuries. This really has been. He's thrown a ball and kind of pulled something, and then as he's gone down, he's kind of twisted his own ankle, and all of this stuff. I find that really, really, really strange.
Okay.
But the thing is before the injuries, his QBR was elite. It was 85.4. Then he came back too soon because they got Oklahoma and they had got Georgia, and he wanted to come back and play in those games. He came back way too soon. He had an absolute nightmare against Georgia because he wasn't healthy. At the end of the season, in the final 5 games of the year, his QBR was really good again. So the worst bit of his season, where all of the turnover-worthy plays and the bad stuff happened, was when he wasn't healthy. So on the one hand, like I say, that's an excuse for the bad play. There was some good play, but the problem is anybody who drafts him has got to believe we can keep this guy healthy, and that's really, really hard to do, to say that pre-draft anyway.
Yeah, it's and here's the thing though, when you go back, and this is, I think, what I love about how you do things, and is that you incorporate a little bit of the analytics and the numbers there, and still use your eyes to evaluate it. And I think that's going to be the thing with a guy like Quinn Ewers. Maybe the stats there don't back it up what he can be, but then the eyes could maybe provide more reasons why you would select him. I think it's going to be a fascinating class. I really is. I can't figure out the quarterback stuff. When I think someone's going to be a hit, they're a dud. When I think someone's going to be a dud, they're a hit. I have no idea. Like, I don't think Cam Ward's going to be any good. And Cam Ward's going to get picked number 1. He's going to be a star. I think Shedeur Sanders is going to be the best of them. Shedeur Sanders is going to be out of the league in 2 years playing in the XFL. I mean, I don't know. I don't know any of this stuff. I didn't think Jaden Daniels is going to be good, and he's a stud. So it is, my old good friend, still a good friend, ex-coworker Hugh Millen used to say this all the time. He's like, you couldn't pay enough money to someone to evaluate this position, because it's simply the hardest thing to do in sports. Nothing compares to the evaluation of a quarterback and drafting of a quarterback. Nothing is a bigger crapshoot than that. He's right.
He's
so
absolutely correct. He's absolutely correct. And over the years, you kind of do it. Ever since they traded Russell Wilson, I've made it sort of a mission to watch every game that every notable quarterback plays, to have the best amount of information to hand to sort of be able to talk about them. And it's so hard. Like you can focus on traits. You can focus on, what people say about them. Like there's one quarterback, like people, talk about Will Levis. I had the opportunity to interview Will Levis and speak to people at Kentucky about Will Levis, and then all of them spoke with just the most highest glowing praise. Unbelievable athlete. Did some good stuff at times for Kentucky, had all of the tools, but he's not worked out because he can't stop making boneheaded mistakes, and he's quite robotic and stiff despite the athleticism, and he's bulked up too much. And that's such a hard thing. The difference between him and, say, Justin Herbert isn't that much in terms of the physical tools and the character, but the performance on the field is very, very different. So it's very, very difficult to sort of judge who is good. Nobody could have said watching Wyoming that Josh Allen was going to be Josh Allen.
Exactly.
If everyone knew Lamar Jackson was going to be MVP level player, he never lasts to the end of the first round. Yeah. It's the hardest thing to do, but it's fun. It's fun to talk about it and try and work it out.
It is. It's extremely fun. I love it. I mean, I there's at times that I enjoy the draft sometimes more than football. I love the NFL draft. I love all drafts. I think we talked about this. I talked about this yesterday. I'm a huge NBA fan, and I want the Sonics to come back and all that. But I loved. Now, not so much anymore because the league has changed, or the college basketball's changed so much and all that. I still love the NBA draft. Loved it. You'd watch these guys for 3 or 4 years play college ball, and then the lottery, and you'd watch, and like, oh, I would just sit there and watch it all the time. The NFL is the only one that's really like that anymore. Major League Baseball is not a thing. You don't know any of the players because no one watches college baseball for the most part. And then they're drafting a bunch of high school kids. It's the same thing with like hockey. I don't think hockey's that enjoyable to watch the draft. You don't know any of these guys, and a lot of them are coming over from Europe and all that. The NFL, though, you know all the players for the most part because they've stayed in school for 3+ years and generally play for some of the bigger programs, and you'll watch it every Saturday. So it's you feel like you know all these guys, and it's fun. It's a fun day. It's a fun 3 days. So, and the quarterback is always the sexiest position. You did the same stuff you did on the quarterbacks. You did on the D line and offensive line. Dealer's choice. You wrote it. Which way do you want to go now?
Well, I'll go with offensive line just because I think that's the one that most people. I mean, look, the quarterbacks are interested to talk about, but I think most people are very interested in the offensive line and how the Seahawks repair that. And I think so doing this, I did it for free agents and I did it also for the draftable players.
Right.
And I think what is pretty clear is that there's one guy and we talked about him in the past, who stands head and shoulders above all of the others in terms of you have got, if you were going to really fix this offensive line, I think they've got to go after Drew Dalman. He has played the most snaps at a high level in the zone blocking scheme. He is a legit top 5 center in the league. He has all of the physical tools and the testing at the combine that you need for a top center. And he has gone on to have a great time in Atlanta, and they've got to try and get him. The problem is that there's probably about 25 teams who are going to want to try and sign this guy. And it's how do you convince him to come to Seattle, especially if the Niners are interested in him, knowing he was born in California and he went to Stanford. That these are the kind of challenges. And if you don't get Drew Dalman, Puck, there isn't a lot of, I mean, short of going and getting Trey Smith, it's kind of those two guys. Once they're not available anymore, you run a very dangerous possibility here of throwing bad money at average players. Mm-hmm. So I think it perhaps puts a lot of pressure on the draft. I think that they will shoot their shot with some of these offensive linemen. They might have to go and find specific zone blocking players. For example, Ben Barch could be a bit of a dark horse from the Niners, somebody who just looks like he is ready to play in this system. The Niners have earmarked him to replace Aaron Banks. You might be banking on that number 18 pick. If you're going to get an injection of talent for this offensive line, you might be hoping at 18, your Tyler Bucky, your Kelvin Banks, Armand Membu last to 18.
Yeah. Do we get a sense of the versatility with these offensive linemen in this draft? Talking about tackles who can move inside. Is it when you look at these guys, do they have the ability to do that?
Absolutely. I mean, that's what this draft is really about. There's hardly any tackles. All of the tackles pretty much have to kick inside.
Okay.
It's just a long list of guys with short arms who are going to have to move inside. And
they got short arms.
Yeah, you'd be ideal to be in this draft class to kick inside. How are you in the zone blocking scheme?
Wonderful. It's many people have seen me around the neighborhood, Rob. Really a zone scheming type of.
You're going to get into the second level, yeah.
Yeah, I'm a big second level walking the dogs. Yeah.
Well, there are definitely a lot of guys like that, and that's the good news. Is that I think, and I've been trying to make this point. It's a hard sell to Seahawks fans because I feel like they've heard this for a long time. But let's just say worst case scenario: you don't get Drew Dorman, you don't get Trey Smith. Let's say that you don't get one of those three guys I've just mentioned at 18. The one good thing about this draft is that you have got good zone blocking offensive linemen who are going to be available rounds 2, 3, 4, maybe even 5. And some of the best zone blocking linemen in this draft, players who I really like, Puck, who I'd get on the table right now and stand up if there was enough room and go and jump up and down on it for him. The Clay Webbs from Jacksonville State. I really like Clay Webb. I really like Connor Colby at Iowa. I really like Luke Kandra at Cincinnati. These are players that people don't really talk about. They fit this scheme. And you can get these guys later on. So all I'm saying is, even if the worst case scenario happens and they have to wait to round 3 onwards to go and try and get some talent into this offensive line, I still think they can do it.
The announcement came out today. Just speaking of the free agency and money, the cap teams have been informed the cap is going to fall in the range of $277 to $281 million. So it's going to be way up from last year's $255. It just keeps going up and up. I think it's over. It's damn near $55 million. I think over the last 2 years. Does this change their thinking at all, or not? And what decisions you anticipate coming up here when it comes to the cap for the Seahawks?
Well, it's approximately $7 million more cap room than everyone was projecting. That's the first thing that I noticed. As soon as I saw this tweeted just before I jumped on with you, I went on over the cap, and I think they were saying it was $7 million less than they're now projecting. I think it was like 272. It's now 279. So the Seahawks have got a bit of extra cap space to play with, which is a good thing. Of course, everybody else has a bit of extra cap space to play with as well, which is the bad thing. It's not exclusive to Seattle. I think,
should be.
Yeah, I think I'm just hoping that because they've had pretty much since August to have a think about what they're going to do with this offensive line, that they're ready to go. That when they get to that combine next week, they are going to schmooze like John Schneider has never schmoozed before. They have got to get into those agents. They have got to sell them the dream. They have got, and I know that he was sort of pouring a bit of cold water on this idea of going out and spending last week when he did his interview. They've got to try and find a way to get someone like Drew Dorman. It just sets it off. Like if you can add, because Christian Haynes, good zone blocking, great when he was in college. If you can get him going with the new staff, if you can keep Abe Lucas healthy, if Charles Cross can take this long-awaited step forward, and then if you could go and get a good, player at 18, plug him in at left guard, and put Drew Dolman in at center, that's a line. That's a decent-looking line. So it's not impossible, but I think we'd all be just a bit reassured if they could go and land someone. And if it can't be Drew Dolman, at least go and get Ryan Kelly.
Well, it's you go back, and we've discussed this before. You go back to what Clint Kubiak said in his press conference. Actually, was with Softy that, hey, we need an elite center, to run this offense. And they don't have that on their roster. They need to go get it, and he would fit, and Dahlman would fit that bill for them. He
would. And the other thing I would say on centers is I always overrate centers in the draft. Like I always have them graded too high. And then it gets to the draft, and I'm always a bit surprised that they're still there in like round 3, round 4. And I have Jake Majors at Texas graded very highly, the center there. Nobody else is great. Like I just saw Lance Zelian's got him round 4, round 5 range. And all of the other centers are in that. Jared Wilson's in that range, even lower. So the good thing is we're going to get to the combine next week. We're going to see these guys test. Hopefully they'll do everything. The agility testing is big for centers. Hopefully they'll do all of this. It might be that a good young center is available round 4, round 5 for the Seahawks. And I don't want to throw a good young center out, as a rookie, especially if he's going to have to do the line calls. But Ryan Kelly as a 1-2 year stopgap, and then a draft to develop a younger guy, which is what the Eagles did with Cam Jurgens with Jason Kelsey. you can sell me on that idea. That's perfectly fine if Dolman's not available.
Yeah, I would love to find a center. God, it's just been too long. I mean, Max Unger. I mean, it's just too long since they've not had a dominant offensive lineman or dominant center there along that offensive line. All right, let's save the defensive line for next week.
Okay.
But I would go read SeahawksDraftBlog.com. Rob he's got 3 pieces that are just up right now. Defensive line, offensive line, quarterbacks, talking about free agency and draft. And I'm just going to tell you, grab a very large cup of coffee, okay? or over there, a cup of tea, and sit down, kick your feet up, carve out some time, and it's okay not to look at your phone for a little bit, okay? You're going to be okay. Nothing's going to happen on TikTok. Nothing's going to happen. You don't got to worry about it. Sit back and read a long-form piece. Which used to just be a normal piece on those 3 positions. It's great work, man. You do a fabulous job. I love having you on every week. I love that you do it. You continue to do it. Love your passion for the sport. Also, what do you got up on the YouTube channel right now as well?
YouTube channel. So I have done an interview with Ty Robinson, which people should go and check out, and some stuff about fixing the offensive line. Got some other stuff planned. Combine week's massive week next week. Can I set everyone some homework? I don't want to give you chores to do.
Do I have to do it? I've got to do it too.
You can if you want. Okay. Just if we're going to talk about defensive lineman next week, just save some time between now and next week, everyone, and go and watch Braden Swinson, the LSU edge rusher.
Braden Swinson,
because too many people are sleeping on him, and I think he's going to go. He could be a really good option for the Seahawks. So I think he's just a good name to go and check out before next week.
Okay, will do. Thanks, Rob. We'll talk to you next week.
See you next week.
There he is, Rob Staton, SeahawksDraftBlog.com.